Alrighty, welcome to the quadratic formula. This is section 6 of chapter 2. Okay. First we're going to start with some warm-ups. Numbers 1 and 2 just says to write each function in standard form. So by now you guys should have standard form down. That's ax squared plus bx plus c. What that means is we got to get rid of all those parentheses and simplify, like as much as we can. So let me pull up another screen here and we'll get started with number 1. Alright, number 1 was parenthesis x minus 4 squared plus 3. Okay, so to get rid of the parentheses, remember that squared outside that parentheses means I have two sets of those parentheses. So I have x minus 4, x minus 4. I'll worry about that plus 3 here in a minute. So with this, we got to FOIL through. X times x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 4, positive 16. Now I'm going to bring that plus 3 down. Now we just got to combine like terms. We have our x's that we can combine. Negative 4x minus 4 more of them makes a negative 8x. Here's my x squared. 16 plus 3 is 19, and there's standard form. So x squared minus 8x plus 19. That should look familiar. That's going from what looks like vertex form clear down to standard. Okay, we were doing that before. Alrighty, number 2. That way you guys have a chance to write it down. Is 2 parenthesis x plus 6 all squared minus 11. So back to my whiteboard. We have 2 parenthesis x plus 6 squared minus 11. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with that 2 or the 11 yet. So we'll stick the 2 here, minus 11 here. Because we know that x plus 6 means, I have 2 parentheses with that in it. So we have to FOIL it through. We have to distribute. So let us do that. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 6, 36. Now notice what I did. That 2 was out front of the parentheses, so I have to leave those parentheses there. Next up, I want to combine like terms. 6 plus 6 is 12, so that's 12x plus 36x squared. Alright, so I'm going to leave this 11 to the end because I want to distribute this 2 now through to everything. So that becomes 2x squared. 2 times 12 is 24. That's x, 24x. 2 times 36 is 72 minus your 11. So your final answer of this in standard form is 2x squared plus 24x. And then you have 72 minus 11, or 61. So there's your standard form for number 2. 2x squared plus 24x plus 61. Alright, last but not least, numbers 3 and 4. Now, this is very, very, very important. If you can understand how to do this part, the next part of this chapter, this section is going to be relatively easy. So it says evaluate b squared minus 4ac for the given values of the I'm supposed to say variables. For the given variables. So all we're doing is we're going to take the values they give us for a, b, and c and plug them into that b squared minus 4ac. So what value is your b? B is 7, so that becomes 7 squared minus 4 times your a value, which is 2, times your c value, which is 5. And now, folks, all we got to do is simplify. Most of you can type that straight into the calculator, get your right answer, but I'm going to do it by hand just because. 7 squared is 49. And then we have 4 times 2, which is 8, and then 8 times 5, which is what? 40. So that is 49 minus 40, which is positive 9. Okay, let's try this again with number 4. Alright, b squared is the first part, so that means 3 squared minus 4 times your a value times your c value. 3 squared is 9. Now here's where you have to be very careful because one of those values has a negative. So you have negative 4 times 1, which is negative 4, but then negative 4 times that negative 3 becomes positive 12. So 9 plus 12, 21. Alrighty, good. So let's see what else we have here. So this section, we're going to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula and be able to classify the roots using the discriminant. So far we've learned how to do a lot of different things to solve a quadratic equation. We have used the vertex form, we've plotted the vertex, we know if it opens up or down based on that. We have factored form to find the roots where it crosses the x-axis. We've used standard form, and that tells us the y-intercept. We can find the axis of symmetry. We can find the vertex. We can find the y, the max or the min value. You know, we've done a lot of stuff so far, lots of different ways to solve quadratic equations. Well, there's another method that we can use, and that mostly deals with times where the I becomes involved, basically. So that's pretty much what that whole slide's just saying. Okay, so here is the formula. It is a lengthy formula. I remember back in high school that we would have a test over this just about every day, just to memorize the formula itself. We had to have this memorized. I would highly recommend that you get it memorized. I know your quiz tomorrow, I believe I provided it for you, but who's to say in the future that I don't. So the formula itself is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that is all over 2a. So as long as you've got your equations in standard form, we can identify what our a, b, and c are and plug straight into this formula and simplify to find our roots. Okay? And here's how easy this is going to be. So it says find the zeros of f of x, or the function of 2x squared minus 16x plus 27 using the quadratic formula. Alrighty, so right away we have to first note, is it in standard form? Yes, there's no parentheses, everything's on the same side. We are good to roll here. So now we do, like we used to do when we were graphing them back in the beginning of this chapter. What value is a? It's right there in the red if you can see that. The value is 2. What value is b? What's with the x? A negative 16. And then your c value is the 27. Okay, so now all we have to do is take those a, b's, and c's and plug them into the formula where they need to go. So here we go. Remember, this first negative is always there. Then we've got the b value. So that is negative 16 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So that's negative 16 squared minus your 4 times your a times your c. Now notice what I'm getting ready to do here. And that is all over 2 times your a value. So we have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let us simplify this in the most easiest way possible. I like to start on the bottom because it's just an easy calculation. 2 times 2, which is 4. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead on this side. I'm going to put negative. Well, here, hold on. I don't want you to forget this. Notice the 2 negatives here. So we know that's going to become what? That's going to become a positive. So real quick, let me